In this video, I'm going to be talking about a meditation technique that helped me tremendously and made meditation easy, meaningful, and transformative for my life. Now, when I first started meditating, one of the things I noticed was that as I was meditating, I didn't know what to do. And so my mind was not used to being still, and it was not used to meditation whatsoever. And I noticed that I would have all these distracting thoughts, and the voice in my head would increase, and it was very hard to focus on what I was trying to do. And this was very discouraging. So after a while, I would meditate for 5 minutes and just give up because it was too hard. It was too challenging for me to just sit still and meditate. The second thing I noticed was that after I meditated, I would feel no different than before when I started meditating. And the whole point of me wanting to meditate was to have some kind of experience, some kind of transformation during the meditation that I could benefit from, that would produce fruit in my life. But this wasn't happening. And so I remember meditating one day for 30 minutes when I first started. And after meditating, I felt worse afterwards than I did before. And I remember thinking, I just wasted 30 minutes of my life sitting here doing nothing. And for me, that was not okay. And so when I learned the technique that I'm about to share with you in this video, everything changed because I started to experience what I expected to experience during meditation. And then afterwards, I felt the inner peace, the clarity, and the transformation that I was looking for before I started this journey of meditation. And so the technique is called the primary object technique. And the point of this technique is to pick one thing, one object, one center of attention to focus on during the meditation. And what happens is that during meditation, you're focusing on one thing, and as your mind starts to drift into these different thoughts and distractions, you just gently bring your attention, your awareness back to this one thing. And the more you do this, the other thoughts just fade away until you're just completely synced with this one object. And then that's when you begin to enter that stillness, that inner peace. But for me, the object of the primary object can be whatever you want it to be. It can be following your breath. It could be a mantra. It could be praying. It could be a picture, like a painting, art. Doesn't matter. But it's one center of attention, one thing that you're focusing on, and not all these different things. It's one thing. Now, following the breath is very unique because I've tried, it can be a candle flame. That's another thing I forgot to mention, but it can be, I've tried different objects, okay? And following the breath for me has been the most effective because I feel like when I'm following the breath, there's something very sacred to it. And it's hard to explain, but there's something very sacred to the breath. And when you're following your breath, I like the idea of almost like this flow, this movement that you're focusing on instead of one steady object or one picture. For me, that's why the breath works a lot better. But when you're focusing on your breath, what you're doing is you are aware and you're focusing on the in-breath and the out-breath, but you're not trying to control your breathing or the rate of your breathing. You're just focusing on it. You're just being aware of it. And for some people, on the in-breath, what they'll do is they'll simultaneously focus on the word rising, and then on the out-breath, they'll simultaneously focus on the word falling, and they'll just keep repeating this. And I've tried this out too, and it really helps. So that's just something to think about. You don't have to just focus on the breath. You can have this rising, falling thinking pattern going on as you're focusing on the breath. And that has shown to, like I said, help as well. But you're focusing on your breath, and what will happen is your mind will start to drift. That's normal, especially early on in the meditation. And all you do is just bring your attention back to your breath. So imagine you're at the beach or you're sitting on the seashore and you're watching the ocean waves and you're focusing on the waves, the rhythm of the waves. And then all of a sudden, a seagull flies and it lands right between you and the waves, and it becomes a distraction. And it starts calling and it starts making noise and all this stuff. And it's hard now to focus on what you were once focusing on, the waves. So all you do is you acknowledge that the seagull's there, and then you gently bring your attention and your focus back to the waves, back to the rhythm. And then the seagull flies away. And so it's staying grounded on one thing, having one primary object to focus on. And the longer you do this, all the other thoughts, the distractions, the voice in your head begins to fade away. And so the first time I tried this technique, I had got to a point where I had tried many other meditation techniques out. Some worked, some didn't. But I was looking for something more. And I was at a 3-day silent retreat. Couldn't talk, couldn't be on my phone, couldn't watch TV. It was literally just 3 days of silence. And the whole point of this retreat was to experience God through prayer, through meditation. But my intention going into the retreat was to mainly focus on contemplation, contemplative prayer. And so I brought the book Seeds of Contemplation by Thomas Merton, and my goal was to read this book in those 3 days and then to just practice contemplative prayer when I wasn't reading this book. But by day 2, I got to a point to where I was just sitting in my room and I got tired of reading the book and I got tired of practicing contemplative prayer. So I said, you know what, I'm going to meditate for a little while. And so I start meditating, and again, there were a few techniques that I had been practicing at that time, but I was looking for something more. And then the thought appeared in my mind and it said, why don't you try the primary object technique where you focus on your breath? But then I was like, it just sounds so boring and it sounds like too simple. I was looking for something that would really bring about like noticeable differences in my meditation experience right away. And I'm thinking like following the breath, like what the heck is that going to do? But I talked myself into it. I said, you know what, I'll give it a try and I'll see what happens. And so I did. And I didn't have any music. Normally I meditate with music, but again, I had nothing but silence. So I sat in a chair and I followed my breath for 30 minutes. And about 15 minutes into it, I started to experience more peace than I've ever experienced before. More bliss, I experienced the presence of God in a way that I've never experienced God. Let's just say that. I got into my heart space, and it was like the whole room just shifted. Now, and then after the 30 minutes was up, I was in a state of heaven. I mean, I was just completely overtaken by this peace that was surpassing all of my understanding. And I've never in my life, up until this point, I had never experienced anything like that before in meditation. And when I thought about it afterwards, and by the way, it took me about an hour to get out of this state. But here's the thing. There was zero worry, fear, anxiety at all. And in the past, with different meditation techniques, I've noticed that I'll get to a state of consciousness where I'm experiencing that inner peace, that sacred stillness in the heart space, and it's awesome. But there's still a little bit of like worry or fear that kind of lingers, and so it doesn't completely erase my fear and worry and anxiety. It just kind of suppresses it because in that moment I'm just overwhelmed by this peace. But this time was different. In this time, it was like there was absolutely no fear or worry or anxiety at all. And during that time in my life, there were things that I really was worrying about, and there was things that I was fearful of. And part of the reason I signed up for this retreat was to work on those things through prayer. And up until that point at the retreat, I was really having a hard time not thinking about those things that I was worrying about. But in this moment of meditation, after practicing the primary object technique of following the breath, those things it was like there was a detachment. So they were no longer overtaking me. I was still aware of them, and I even brought them into my awareness during the meditation, but I felt like they had no more power over me. I felt a relief. I felt a liberation from these things, and I could just witness them for what they were. And it was amazing because at any other moment, if I would have brought that thing I was worrying about into the center of my attention, into the center of my awareness, there would have been immediate fear and anxiety that would have overtaken my body. But I tried this a few times, like in this meditation, during this practice, and even afterwards. If I brought it into my attention, there was nothing, like nothing. And so afterwards, I made it a point to practice this on a regular basis. And this is when my meditation was taken to a completely new level. And I noticed that the longer I would stay in this state, the longer I would practice this technique, the longer I would feel, and I would stay in that state of consciousness after the meditation. So it would take longer for me to come down from that state of bliss, from that state of perfect presence, of heaven, whatever you want to call it. And so, yeah, but again, the thing that was preventing me from from trying this practice technique out for so long was I thought it was too simple. I thought it was, it's just following your breath. Like, what's to that? That's nothing. Like, that's not going to transform my meditation. But I was wrong. And one of the things I've learned in life is that the most powerful lessons sometimes come packaged in profound simplicity. And I see that a lot in the teachings and life of Jesus. His teachings, his message, his life, the parables, all the things he used to demonstrate his powerful truths were packaged in profound simplicity. And this is exactly the case for this technique. It is a simple technique, a simple practice that is packaged in profound simplicity. And it's like too good to be true. So your mind hears it and your mind's like, no, I'm not going to try that. That's a waste of time. That's boring. That's not going to get you anywhere. But if you can just get past that voice and give it a try, I mean, what do you have to lose? Give it a try during your meditation. And if you're someone that's been experiencing trouble during your meditation like I was, where you feel like you don't know what to do, you feel like your mind's all over the place, and then afterwards you feel like you're not getting anywhere after the meditation, then why not try it? If it works, great. If not, then it doesn't work. But at least give it a try, because I really do think it will work, and I really do think it will help you. And so what I want you to do is today, during your meditation, I want you to try this technique out for 5 minutes. That's it, just 5 minutes. And I want you to notice what you're experiencing during your meditation and then how you feel after. And if you feel any different, if you notice any experience or any feeling, or anything that doesn't typically happen during your meditation. I want you to notice that, and then I want you to come back to the comment section, and I want you to share your experience. And then what I want you to do is, after 7 days of practicing this for 7 days straight, I want you to begin to increase your time each day, little by little, until you work your way up to 30 minutes. And when you get to 30 minutes, after 7 days, if you've noticed a shift in your meditation experience, again, I want you to come back to the comment section below on this video and share your experience, so that others can see that this is something that actually works and can tremendously help you in your meditation, therefore tremendously help you in your life. So that's it. If you found this video helpful, informative, or insightful, leave a thumbs up at the bottom of the screen, and be sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.